before should we get started now, inshallah? Anyone else like to join the one brother in front of me? Jazakumullah khairan. Alhamdulillah. The other ones have excuses, I suppose. Alhamdulillah. All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah wa ba'd. So, today's topic, I wanted to talk about something of great significance. And that's something that we use on a daily basis, we use regularly, we use frequently, and that is our tongues, or our mouths, as you can say. You know, every single day we speak words. Every single day we say something. And it is said that the average human being, the average person, speaks how many words per day? How many words per day do you think the average person says? Any guesses? 2,000? Good guess. Anyone else? Just pick one, average, and then I'm going to tell you the difference. The average person. 50,000? That's a lot, yeah. Alhamdulillah. Good. So somewhere between 2 and 50,000, right? So at least the range is good. Alhamdulillah. So there's two studies. One study says the average person speaks 16,000 words per day. That's a lot of words per day. And another study says that the average male speaks 7,000 words per day, and the average female speaks 21,000 per day. So, of course, there's some exceptions, you know, but that's generally, that's one of the studies that came out. But what does that mean, right? What is the significance of that? The significance is that human beings, we talk a lot. We say a lot of things. And when we say a lot of things, there's a lot of potential to say good things, but there's also a lot of potential to make mistakes and say things that we're going to be held accountable for in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's really what I want to talk about in the brief time that we have here. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he spoke to one of the companions, Mu'adh ibn Jabal, one of the young companions, one of the young Sahaba. And he told him, he said, Ya Mu'adh, so, oh Mu'adh, protect this. Watch out for this. Watch your tongue. Meaning be careful of what you say. So Mu'adh ibn Jabal, he was a young man at the time, and he didn't understand exactly what's going on. So he asked a question, very sincere. He said, Messenger of Allah, are we going to be held accountable for what we say? Are we going to be responsible for the things that we speak? And why do you think he's asking that? I mean, he's asking that question because maybe Mu'adh, he was young, his understanding was, look, as long as we're not doing harm to anyone, we're not killing anyone, we're not stealing from them, we're not hitting them, it's just words. So words aren't that bad. Are we going to be held responsible even for just the words that we speak about someone else? And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, of course. The words he used was different. He said, ثَقِلَتْكُ أُمُّكِ. He said, may your mother be bereaved of you. Meaning, you know, take this seriously. That's the Arab statement that they used to make. Meaning, take this seriously. He said, do you think that people are going to be thrown on their faces in the fire of hell for something other than what their tongues have earned? What the Prophet ﷺ responded, he says, yes, you're going to be held accountable for every single thing that you say. And he's saying on the day of judgment, there are going to be people who are thrown on their faces in the fire of Jahannam, in the fire of hell, because of the things that they were speaking. And that's going to be part of the punishment for what they were saying. So when we look at this, and we look at all the different ways that we can speak and we can say things, there are three logical possibilities, right? Every time you think about opening your mouth, you think about saying something, you can either say something nice, or you can say something bad, or you cannot say anything at all. There's only three things that are going to happen basically in life, right? Or you can say something neutral, but neutral can either be good neutral or can be bad neutral. So what did the Prophet ﷺ say? In another hadith, authentic hadith, he said, Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir. He said, whoever believes in Allah and believes in the last day, meaning that they're going to have to stand in front of Allah for accounting. So whoever believes in Allah in the last day, if you're a Muslim, that فَلْيَقُلْ خَيْرًا أَوْ لِيَصْمُتْ. Either say something good or keep quiet. You have two options. So three options, potential options. Whenever you think about saying something, you have three options, right? I'm going to say something, either good, I'm going to say something bad, or I'm not going to say anything at all. The Prophet ﷺ is saying that if you're a true believer, get rid of option number 3. Just remove it from your potential. Because some people, what they do, and you may have done this yourself, or you may have observed someone doing it, they'll even say, you know, I shouldn't say this, but let me say something. And then they say it anyways. They know they shouldn't even say it. Sometimes they even preface their statement with, I know I shouldn't say this, and then they go ahead and say it anyways, because it's a bad thing. So, you know, I know I shouldn't be talking bad about such and such person, but let me just say one thing about him, you know, and then they go and start blasting the person. And, you know, the Prophet ﷺ is telling us, don't do that. Don't speak things like this. Don't say things like this, because you're going to be held accountable for what you're saying. So today, you know, I have a very, you know, we teach an entire class on this at our school, California Islamic University. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to limit ourselves to 3 things. 3 things which I think have become very prevalent and people don't address them enough. So the first point, the first thing we need to be careful of is foul language. Using bad words. Using what's called obscenity. And this is something which has become so prevalent, it's become so common that almost everyone is doing it. You know, you go into work and you'll find the employees around you using foul language. Your boss will be using foul language. Even the president is using foul language. Not that he's a role model, but you know, he's using foul language too. Everyone is using foul language around. That's why Muslims become not only the minorities, they become the minority of the minority, even from a moral perspective. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult when everyone around you is using the same language and you as a Muslim are not supposed to use the F word and the S word and all the other words you're not supposed to be using. And it's tough and it's challenging. But what you have to remember is this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is narrated by Imam Hakim and Ibn Hibban. It's authentic. The Prophet ﷺ said, beware of obscenity and foul language, because Allah hates the one who uses foul language. See, for a Muslim, that should be more than enough. Every Muslim wants, they say, I want Allah to love me. I want Allah to be happy with me. And the Prophet ﷺ is saying, anyone who uses foul language, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates that person, because they're using that language. Now this doesn't matter if you're using it privately or you're using it publicly. It doesn't matter if you're using it for emphasis or you're using it to harm someone else. And this has become so prevalent, it's become so common, we find that people you wouldn't imagine. You see grandma and grandpa all of a sudden, when they get really stressed out, boom, they drop one of these F-bombs or something, and you're like, whoa, how could they say something like that? I even hear some imams and some shuyukh, they won't say it publicly, but privately, I'm in a gathering or something, they get very stressed out, and they'll throw out a cuss word. And this is unacceptable. It just means it's become so prevalent that almost everyone, nobody is safe from thinking that, you know, they're protected from using this language. Now, you have to understand something, right? Where do people get this idea from? Right? Where does it come from, and why do people insult others, right? Well, first of all, the reason why people use foul language, one, is because when they want to harm someone, they want to really, really insult someone badly, they're going to use a bad word. They're going to use foul language. So if you really don't like someone and you want to harm them, imagine you were to say, you know, that person is really, really, really bad. That's not eloquent. It's not powerful enough to destroy the person's reputation. So you want to really, you know, insult them. You want to make them feel bad. You want to make them look bad. You use one of these worse words, right? And for a Muslim, we should not be harming people like that. Right? So that should not be a reason to say, you know, I really wanted to emphasize a statement by harming someone else by saying something really disgusting about them. That should not be the character of a Muslim. So the first cause of why people use bad language is because it causes a lot of harm, and they want to cause the maximum amount of injury. It's not enough to just slap someone. You have to like stab them and twist. They want to cause maximum injury. And that should not be the characteristic of a believer. The second reason why people use bad language is because they're accustomed from bad influences. The music that you listen to, if it contains foul language, the movies that you watch, even PG-13 or R or whatever it is, all of these things, when you hear them, it automatically comes into your mind, it comes into your heart, and then it ends up coming out on your tongue. So you need to be very careful. You need to clean out the language that you're getting yourself accustomed to. Now, how do you do that? If you're listening to music and you're addicted to certain type of songs, you need to adjust. Adjust the genre of music that you listen to and change your genre up. If you're watching movies and the movies are always having these things, find a service that can filter this out for you. So for example, if you're renting movies and all of that, there's a great service that, alhamdulillah, very few people in the world, besides Muslims, actually care about this stuff. One of them, alhamdulillah, is the Mormons. They're actually concerned about nudity in movies and about foul language in movies and all of that. So they've developed a new service called VidAngel. It's a great service. What it does is it's kind of like a Netflix. You subscribe to it, and you get movies from there, but you can choose what you want to turn off. So if you want to turn off nudity, they've searched through every single nude scene in that movie. You click the button and you say, turn all nudity off. It will skip and cut out all the scenes for you. You say, turn off all foul language. It will cut out. So it's basically someone, may Allah reward that person. He went through and he documented every single foul language in every single movie. And then they have exactly where that clip is. And you click on the button and it'll cut out every single one of those. So you watch the movie and it'll cut out every single bad word from the movie. And they've been sued by Hollywood producers. They've been sued for the last 25 years. Because the people who make these movies, they say, this is my art, and you're altering my art. You're removing my nude scene and my pornography scene from the movie. This is my art that I made. So Hollywood has been suing this company for 25 years, back and forth. They've been in lawsuits. They were just shut down about 6 months ago. They just reopened. They've been shut down 2 years before that. They were shut down 3 years before that. They just keep getting shut down, and they keep fighting in court, and then they get back up, and then they might be shut down again in another year. This is what society has become, unfortunately. But when we become accustomed to these influences, it affects us. And what you're going to find is, you have to know yourself. You're going to find people that if you accidentally drop something heavy on your foot, F word is going to come out, naturally. You're not even thinking and it comes out. And then you find someone else in the world, or your next door neighbor, they drop something on their foot, and Subhanallah comes out, or Allahu Akbar comes out. How do you think that happens? Do you think it just happens like naturally? One person was born with Allahu Akbar in their heart, and one person is born with the F word in their heart. This doesn't just come naturally. This is a result of the influences that you accustom yourself to. And you have to realize you have the freedom and the power to decide what you want to put into your mind, what you want to be looking at. Super Bowl is coming up on Sunday. Super Bowl commercials are known to be not the best. I mean, not the best in the sense that they're very high quality, but they're not very good programming, enticing you to alcohol and excessive patriotism and things like that. So people, a lot of people, what do? They say, I love to watch Super Bowl commercials. Has anyone heard that? I love to just watch the commercials. People pay $2 million for a 30-second commercial. Why do you think a company is dumb enough to pay 30-second commercial? They're going to pay $2 million? You think they're dumb? They're not dumb. They know that they can influence you in 30 seconds to change your way of thinking and have some influence on you exactly the way they want. Why are we so naive and we think, oh, these things don't influence us? I can watch the rated R movie and just listen to, the cuss words, but I'm not going to use it. It's going to be okay, I'm a Muslim. I'm just going to tell myself I'm not going to use it. They've studied exactly how to get you to think along these lines. And everything that's an input in your sensory perception, it has an influence on you. So if you're wondering, why do I use bad language? Or why does it sometimes just naturally come out when I get stressed out? It's because of the influences that you've accustomed yourself to. And you have the ability to undo that. You have the ability to change that if you care and if you want to. And as a Muslim, we should want to, right? And there are people who try to justify foul language by saying, I just use it for emphasis, or it's part of our culture, my circle, my group, they understand, they don't think it's a bad thing, right? But the reality is, a believer, a Muslim, should be better than this. So we should be very cautious and very careful about using foul language. Number 2, and that is mocking, making fun of other people. Now what is mocking? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Hujurat, He says, "O you who believe, no group of people should mock another group of people." Meaning, don't make fun of other people. And when I was in school, which is not that long ago, but some of you remember, when you were in school and all that, it's almost a culture, especially in America if you went to school. It's a culture to make fun of other people. Talk about this person's mom and this, you're so fat and you're this and you're ugly, and everyone just makes fun of each other. It's become part and parcel of the culture. You watch a television show, you watch a movie, everyone is just making fun of each other. The heroes of the movie, they make fun of other people. And that becomes part of the entertainment. And what does that do? It encourages you to go make fun of other people. And why do you do it? What's the purpose behind it? Usually it's people just want attention. They do it because they just want people to amuse other people. People will give them attention, and people are starving for attention. And this is something that's become so common, making fun of other people in front of them and not having any reservations whatsoever. And it's also become a common culture to make fun of elders, right? People who are older, make fun of your parents, right? This is a totally different culture. I see a lot of people from the elder generation here. They can't imagine, because their culture, the culture that you came from, if you came from a traditional culture, you were taught to show respect to your parents. You were taught to show respect to your elders. And then all of a sudden you're like, what's with these American kids, They're disrespecting their elders and they're making fun of even their own parents. How could they do something like that? It shouldn't be surprising. You watch any TV show, you watch any movie, that's the culture. That's what it promotes. I'm thinking old cartoons, from The Simpsons and everything. What does the kid do? He makes fun of his father in the show. You look at all these TV shows, even the modern ones, every single one no one is respecting their parents. In fact, they're insulting their parents and it becomes a joke. That's part of the comedy, that's part of the humor. So if you wonder why it's happening, that's the culture. And when your culture is pushing you in one direction, in order for you to get back to the right balance, you have to really put extra effort in order to correct it. So this culture of mocking, making fun of other people, having no respect for other people, it's destroyed society. And now it's even in the political landscape. As you can see, even the president just keeps making fun of people, and no respect, no reservations whatsoever. No haya, as we say, right? Like no shamefulness. There's shameless people, basically. That's what's happened. So we need to be careful when it comes to mocking and making fun of other people as well. And the third thing I want to talk about. So far we've talked about, what's the first reminder? To be careful of what you say with regards to your language, bad language. All right. Number 2, making fun of other people. And number 3, I have 17 that we teach in our course. We're just going to do 3 tonight, inshallah. Number 3, false promises. Making false promises, false commitments. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the first verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah, says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, awfu bil-uqud. Fulfill your covenants. Fulfill your pledges. Basically, fulfill your promises. Now, what does that mean? That means that when you say something, you follow through with it. Don't promise people things and then just cancel and you don't even follow through with it. So the Prophet ﷺ said regarding this is a very serious hadith. He said, there are 3 signs of a hypocrite. There are 3 signs of a munafiq. Someone who shows signs of hypocrisy. Number 1, when he speaks, he lies. When he talks, he says something, he's telling a lie. Number 2, when he promises, he breaks it. When the person makes a promise to someone, they're going to break that promise. They're not reliable. And number 3, when they're entrusted, they're treacherous. Somebody entrusts them with something, they will not fulfill it. So you have to be very careful. You have to ask yourself, do you have any of these qualities? Because you'll find people, even if you're not doing it intentionally, you'll resemble a hypocrite outwardly. Someone will loan you a book. You go to someone's house and you say, hey, that's a really nice book. Can I borrow that book, please? Say, oh, well, when are you going to give it back to me? I'll give it back to you in 1 week. Next week, it'll be back. 6 months later, you're wondering, what happened to the book on the shelf? It's gone. Never seen it again. Right? What happened to it? Where did it go? Oh, that person took it, probably didn't even read it, and completely forgot to give it back to you. But that forgetfulness is not just overlooked, because they didn't even have a care or concern enough to think of something so important that, hey, this is an amana, this is a trust, this is something I need to fulfill. You see, people, they have priorities in their life, right? That same person, if they had a final exam in their university, they don't all of a sudden just be like, oh, I totally forgot I had a final exam. No, people don't forget that they have final. Very few people do. You know, they have a major problem, right? Very few people do. If you have a surgery, right, coming up, you know, and you're supposed to go and get this surgery done because you have some issue, you're not just like, oh, yeah, totally forgot, you know, sorry, Mr. Surgeon, totally, you know, just didn't think about it, you know, I didn't write it down. But we should have the same care, the same concern when it comes to things like this. When someone entrusts you with something, even if it's small, it becomes an amana. Somebody loans you money. Say, hey, you know, you're at a place. You say, hey, can I borrow $5? I just want to buy a burger for my son. So you'll find so many people, they'll be like, oh yeah, sure, here's $5. See, yeah, I'll pay you back tomorrow when I see you. And the person, it'll just slip their mind completely. But they'll be like, oh, I forgot, things slip my mind. No, important things don't slip your mind. The surgery doesn't slip your mind. The final exam doesn't slip from your mind. The reason why it slipped from your mind is because you didn't care enough to try to remember this. This was not important enough for you. That someone entrusted you with something, and according to the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, you have a sign of hypocrisy in you because you didn't take your amana, your trust, as something serious, and you proved to be treacherous. Now, if you have this problem, right, you should acknowledge it first of all, and try to work on it. And I would argue, and I would say that, you know, in the Muslim community, you know, I go around to different masjids and everything, and people are saying, you know, why can't we have such and such thing in the masjid, and how can we revive the masjid, and why isn't the Muslim community stronger, and how can we, you know, be more organized as a community and everything. And one of the biggest reasons, one of the biggest challenges is, if you think about most communities, most Muslim communities, it's all based on volunteerism for the most part. You don't have employees all over the place. It's based on volunteerism. And in my experience, you'd find that 99 out of 100 volunteers are not reliable. They don't follow through on their commitments. They say things, I'll be there at this time, I'll show up here, I'll take care of this, I'll do that, and they don't fulfill. And that's what happens. It's not only on a personal level, it affects the society at large. So you just ask yourself, just be honest with yourself. Are you part of that solution? Are you one of those people who's fulfilling? Or are you one of the people who's contributing to the larger problem? And you should ask yourself, say, how can I become a reliable person? What can I do to make sure that I only make commitments that I'm going to follow through on? Sometimes, you know, some people have a problem of overcommitting. You know, don't overcommit, because then you can't fulfill. But don't undercommit either. Then some people, they're like, when they hear this, when they hear me say something like this, they're like, I'm never going to, tell anyone, I will never do anything ever again. Wait, what are you saying? You're saying you're such an unreliable person that you don't have any self-control, that you cannot make a commitment to anyone because you cannot follow through on anything. And this has become an epidemic. It's really an epidemic in our society. And one of the other reasons why it's become such a problem is because people are addicted to a new type of drug. It's not marijuana. You know what the new drug is? It's this, smartphone addiction. And what happens is, when people are addicted to this, what ends up happening is there's something on these phones called push notifications. Push notification is the text message that goes ding, right? And I got the smartwatch too. It interrupts me all the time. What happens is, the moment you get a message, I keep it on. Now I started learning, alhamdulillah. There's so much research, medical, psychological research, that shows that these smartphones are making people dumb. And the reason why is because it's constantly interrupting you. And what ends up happening is, when you keep getting interrupted, you cannot focus on the thing that you're doing. And your mind becomes constantly used to being interrupted, and you cannot remember anything. So you're in the middle of something and you're thinking, you know what? We're out of milk. I need to go to the grocery store. Let me write down, I need to get milk because we need to go get it from the grocery store. I think I'm going to go in about 30 minutes to the grocery store, and then I'm going to go get ding. And then you're like, oh, I wonder who that is. And then you read the text message. Milk is gone from your mind. Never got written down. No milk is going to come. You're not going to make it to the grocery store. And maybe you're going to find out later on, oh, we don't have any milk. And this happens throughout the day to people. They get interrupted, they get distracted nonstop, and therefore they cannot even focus. There's no, everything becomes distraction, and they cannot focus on anything. And this ends up funneling back into the idea or the concept of false promises. I mean, we can talk about cell phone addiction is a whole other issue. You're talking to someone, trying to have a very, nice conversation with someone, all of a sudden in the middle, ding, and they have to go and look at their phone. Imagine even with your spouse even, talking to your spouse, say, honey, I love you so, ding, oh, sorry, hold on, I'll get back to you in a moment. Let me read what this is about, Everything is ruined. That's become our culture nowadays, and it's very, very problematic. So just be more self-aware. The more self-aware you become, the more you can think about how you can fix these things. So inshallah, we'll conclude with that. 3 things. Number 1, be careful of the language that you use. Work on it. It's going to take time. It's not going to, it takes years to clean your mind out of those words and get, don't be, if you're accustomed to it, try to get out of it. Try to change your media. Try to change your friend circle. Or tell people, say, look, I don't want you to cuss around me. In the beginning, they'd be like, wow, you're so weird. Why? Everyone's doing it, and what's the big deal? Just say, look, I'm a Muslim. I don't want to hear this stuff. I don't want to be affected by it. Number 2, what was number 2? One of foul language. What was number 2? Mocking, right? Don't mock. Don't make fun of other people, right? And then number 3, false promises. Don't make false promises. Just try to be a person who's reliable. Be a person who, when someone hears you say something, you will be there. You say, I will meet you at 8 o'clock. That person will feel confident, man, Muhammad said 8 o'clock, I will be there. Because he's going to be there at 8 o'clock. He said he's going to give me this book back. I borrowed my book to him. I loaned my book to him. He said he's going to give it back to me on Tuesday. Tuesday means Tuesday. It doesn't mean Wednesday. It doesn't mean next year. It doesn't mean I'm never going to get my book back. And I don't even need to remind him. I don't need to remind Aisha that she's going to give me my CD back that I loaned to her. Become one of those people, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah. Are there any questions before we conclude? Bismillah, fadl. As-salam. Yes, absolutely. Very good point. There's 2 types of insha'Allahs. My brother told me this once. He was making a joke, He said there's 2 types of insha'Allahs. When people say, there's one type of insha'Allah, where when you say, you know what, I'll be there at 8 o'clock, and you say insha'Allah, that insha'Allah means that, you know what, I'm going to try everything in my power to be there, but if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, causes a major traffic jam on the freeway and we cannot move or something, then that's from the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then that's the correct type of inshallah. But then there's the second type of inshallah. Second type of inshallah is that when someone says, hey, can you make it to my house tomorrow? You say, inshallah. That inshallah means that you're going to sit on your sofa at home and you're not going to actually stand up. And you said, inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends an angel to pick me up and carry me and put me into that person's house, Allah can do anything. So that inshallah, if it happens, it happens. But I'm not going to put any effort whatsoever to actually cause that to happen. So as Muslims, when we use inshallah, we should use inshallah as number 1, the number 1 inshallah, not the number 2 inshallah. Otherwise, we should just we should be honest with people. We should be open. And if someone says, okay, can you make it tomorrow? I tell them straightforward. I said, no inshallah. That's it. I say no inshallah. If Allah somehow, something happens and I have to leave my house and somehow I have to be headed in your direction, hey, Allah can cause that to happen. I'll be like, hey, I just decided to stop by. I happened to be stuck in your area anyways, but I had no intention of coming. Just be honest with people. We should use inshallah in the proper way. Just give people the right understanding. Inshallah. Yes. Oh, thank you. $5 million per 30 seconds? Yeah, so the price has gone up. Inflation. Alhamdulillah. So. Vid Angel. vid, V-I-D, like video, vid, angel. Easy way to remember, it's like, angels are sinless and everything, so they're changing the video, they're helping with the video. So vidangel.com or .org or something like that. Very nice website, alhamdulillah. Anyone else? Okay, inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify our tongues. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the sincerity to try to improve ourselves and help improve the society around us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for our sins and only do acts of obedience. Ameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.